Bonjour, здравейте, hello, welcome to Monoglossia Bulgaria edition, because I'm in Bulgaria. Today we're going to talk about 20 coolest vocabulary coincidences. That is to say, words that happen to appear either identically or very closely in two separate languages. I call them coincidences because I've tried to make sure that most of them are completely unrelated linguistically, but some cool false friends might make it to the list or come as an honorary mention. There was a sort of mnemotechnique, I remember I studied in psychology at university, where you just make very funny associations in your head. So use a pair of words, make a very funny association between the two and learn them both if you feel like it. Anyway, let's start. 20 coolest coincidences in no particular order. This is not meant to be exhaustive at all. I haven't done any research. Most of them are related to like life stories or experiences while learning or self-learning languages. If you have anything to add, you are more than welcome to do so in the comment section. Thank you. So, the German word dick, meaning thick, and the English word that's pronounced the same way. I have a funny story with that actually. I had a German friend in university who really insisted on asking me how to say the particular word in French. So he said, please, can you tell me how to say thick in French? It's just that he didn't say thick, but he said the word in German. And luckily, I managed to realize there was something wrong and there was some kind of misunderstanding based on his language, because both from the context and from his expression I could tell that he was not asking me what it sounded like he was asking me. Now, Japanese and Italian, and not just any Italian, but an Italian dialect. Salento settentrionale. Actually, right now I'm taking a course that teaches me about Italian dialects. It's kind of cool. I'll talk to you at a later time. It's just, it really struck my eyes that I saw a song that was called Miero, Miero. Apparently it's pronounced Mero, and it's a type of wine, but I couldn't help but think of the Japanese word to be able to see, Miero, the infinitive being miru, and the e form, or the potential, mi ero, be able to see. Honorable mention here, with the same dialect, and again, Japanese, is ie, which is the way to pronounce io or I, and which of course in Japanese means no, or house, depending if it's ie, house, or ie, no. Bulgarian and English, I really tried to think of some life experiences where there were words sounding the same, but there aren't many, which is understandable as the languages work very differently morphologically. Bulgarian, like I've said, is a very morphologically strong language, so really reliant on prefixes, suffixes, and words are much longer compared to English. But here's one. Lick in English, and lick is actually another word to say lice or face in Bulgarian, but please keep in mind it's a bit of an old-fashioned way to say face, like you can see it in books. Japanese and Hebrew. I happened to be a beginner within the two languages at the same time, and there happen to be coincidences within words that are studied at beginner level in both. Particularly Isha, doctor in Japanese, and woman in Hebrew. Some honorable mentions for Sarah, which is plate in Japanese, and princess in Hebrew, hence the name Sarah, and Kohen, which means priest in Hebrew and means park in Japanese. Okay, here's one with Bulgarian and English. Normally, one of the pair is like a very commonly used word and the other one is very specific. This is the case here. So we got for me in English and for me, dates in Bulgarian, the weird fruit that's usually eaten dry. So we have this little joke like a boy gives like some flowers to a girl and says for you to be really, to pretend to be really cool, to be speaking in English. And the girl says, oh, for me? And then the boy says in Bulgarian, не са for me. Това са цветя. It's not dates, it's flowers. I don't know if that's funny or not. Okay, the next one is with Spanish and Bulgarian. And I admit it might not be that much of a coincidence. It's gusto. So that's like a pleasure in Spanish and pretty much the same in Bulgarian, but you know how when words are taken from one language to another, they usually come with a more specific meaning or a more specific register, like is the case here. So when someone says gusto in Bulgarian, I would really imagine some kind of really hedonistic pleasure like food or maybe a football victory. I remember my first Spanish lesson ever in high school. The teacher just introduced herself and then said mucho gusto and everyone burst laughing. It just sounds funny in Bulgarian. An honorable mention goes to hombre, which means man in Spanish. And in Bulgarian it doesn't sound like anything to me, but people who have not been exposed to Spanish at all seem to see it as something like, oh, bre, like, hey, what are you doing? Some kind of interjection. And they find it funny. And I got a cool one between Japanese and Bulgarian. Komari is mosquitoes. Komar, a mosquito in Bulgarian. And in Japanese, komaru is to be troubled, to be bothered. And the first time I learned this word in Japanese was when a Japanese teacher said very seriously, I find it really easy to learn this word in Bulgarian because mosquitoes really bother me. Let's try to do something with Bulgarian and French. Couldn't think of much, but here goes. Moi, which is obviously me in French, in Bulgarian would be the way to pronounce mucha or a fly in certain regions where the h sound is not pronounced. Actually, it comes as a part of a pretty common saying of pseudo-French in Bulgarian. It goes, Con trea passe muaguapa. Horse is grazing and a fly bit it, but like really made to sound like French basically. A bit because the words sound like French to start with and also a bit overemphasized with lots of r when pronounced. Here is one between French and Bulgarian that is not a coincidence. There is a French word soutien, which means support, you know, the noun support, but in Bulgarian soutien is bras. In French, actually, to say bras is soutien-gorge, literally a support for your throat, which is kind of weird, but anyway, we just took soutien. I remember a colleague reading comically a statement by the French president, Macron, about supporting Bulgaria, and he was saying soutien za Bulgaria, basically a bra for Bulgaria. Okay, that's merely false friends, but it's kind of cool one. In Italian, morbido actually doesn't mean morbid at all, it means soft. How weird is that? Italian and French, closely related languages. Sometimes I assume a word that exists in French exists in Italian, and it often does, but here's one you should be careful with. Cappotto is a coat in Italian, but capote in French is a condom. Anyway, if you're interested in Italian coat, capote, please check out my video where I review best Italian classes, course about idiomatic expressions in Italian linked to clothing. That was smooth. Spanish and English and just false friends, but an especially nice one, you might already be familiar with it. It's embarrassed and embarazada, which means pregnant. So imagine if you were already feeling embarrassed for some reason, the chances are that saying you are pregnant by mistake is not going to help things. When I was a teenager, I used to listen a lot to Tiziano Ferro. And in one of his songs, he just says very distinctly, scappano.
I 13 anni scappano.
Which means rotten, gone bad, or just like annoying. That's the neuter gender in Bulgarian. Scappan, scappana, scappano, scappani. And in Italian, that's the third person plural, scappano, from the verb scappare, to escape. Russian and Bulgarian, both are Slavic languages. There is quite a few false friends there, which makes sense, like the words are related in some way in terms of meaning. I'll mention one that is a coincidence. So, the Bulgarian word idiot means idiot. And in Russian, idiot can be the third person singular from the verb idти, to go. So of course, for idiot I could have taken many other languages apart from Bulgarian, but the pronunciation is really similar between Bulgarian and Russian, so it makes sense I took Bulgarian. Also, I might have a preference for Bulgarian. Bulgarian and Italian, again, mangia in Italian, of course from the verb mangiare, to eat, third person singular. In Bulgarian it's a noun and it means food, but once again the register is very specific. The type of food I would imagine is something really deeply mixed, like something where there's so many different things, so many different vegetables, let's say, that you would no longer refer to it by one name. I hope this doesn't sound gross, because it's actually pretty cool the way in Bulgaria food items are mixed together. I compare this to French food, where you would just boil the rice completely separately from whatever it is your main. While in Bulgarian it would just be cooked together. Anyway, to smoke in Russian is kurit. Hen in Russian is kurica. Both of these resemble a word in Bulgarian that's really vulgar. Alright, and in the case with the hen, it makes perfect sense. Like, I know where this comes from. Basically, the word for rooster used to be based on this modern word for hen in Proto-Slavonic. And apparently, if you're an English speaker, the thing with the rooster being something vulgar as well, it's not just you. There is something universal about it. Greek and Bulgarian, ne in Bulgarian, no in Greek, yes. Now, how crazy is that? Like, once I was ordering a pizza in Greece and I was so proud to be putting a couple of words in Greek together. I asked the guy if they had pizza just with cheese, and he looked at me, smiled and said ne. And I was kind of offended. Why would you look at me and smile at me and say no? And then I realized it was yes. Of course I knew that, but just, you never get used to that. Imagine if you're an English speaker, that in some country no would mean yes. Another Greek-Bulgarian couple. Now, iglika, that's me by the way, hi, and it means primrose, the flower primrose. And in Greek, glika means sweet. And from there basically is the word glucose in modern English. I saw this word for the first time in a Greek song called Glika Glika. And I've actually had people ask me if my name was something in Bulgarian or if it came from the Greek word. Bulgarian and English. Now I'm going to use a proper name, the name Guz. In Bulgarian it means basically a bottom. and not a super nice word for it, let's say. I remember studying the rules for transcribing proper names from English to Bulgarian, and when we were talking about exceptions, we were given this example. If it means something bad, you don't use the rules, basically. You do something, you get around it, you change a letter. You write gaz, even though that's not how it sounds. And here is one between French and English, which will be a tribute to the film L'Auberge Espagnole. I advise you watch this film. It is great for people who like kind of light-hearted comedy, but also especially for language learners. In the film, there was a group of people from different countries living together in Spain, and they would pick phone calls from the family members of their flatmates, but then they wouldn't speak the language the parents were speaking, so it would be tough. So once a British lady answered the phone to a French guy's mother, I think. She was looking for him, but he wasn't there. So the mother said, "Oh, il est à la fac." He is at the university, the faculty. That's how it's abbreviated in French.
Xavier n'est pas là. Il va revenir ce soir. Maman. Okay, I will tell him. Xavier's gone to school. What? La fuck?
It's really easy to overdo it and for the words to become less and less obvious, less and less similar. So I stop here. If I inspired you to learn some words, I'm happy. If I warned you against using some words, I'm also happy. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.